Mario Party is a series that is known above all else for being kind of bullshit.
I've lost 4 stars to chance time. What am I supposed to do? I lost 4!
Random dice rolls, chance time, star swaps, hidden blocks, there's a lot of RNG in Mario Party. Despite this, there are a lot of people who enjoy optimizing Mario Party, taking the game a little more seriously and treating it like an esport. I'm one of those guys. I absolutely love theory crafting and tryharding in this children's party game, but you might be surprised to hear that despite the addition of a Pro Rules competitive game mode in Super Mario Party Jamboree, I absolutely hate playing it. Why does the sweaty tryhard loser damn, why did I go so hard there? Why don't I like Pro Rules? Let's talk about it. Also, this is my second channel. If you want more casual content like this, make sure you're subscribed and maybe drop a like if you're feeling generous. First, let me just list out all the rules so that we are on the same page. Every game is locked to 12 turns. Every game will have one predetermined bonus star: Slowpoke, Sightseer, and Green. Before the game starts, players can choose one of these items to take into the game with them. Certain spaces on the board have been adjusted to reduce RNG. This includes lucky spaces changing from a roulette wheel to a consistent choice between 10 coins and a double dice. Bowser spaces consistently stealing 1 star or half of your coins if you don't have a star. Chance time has been removed. And item spaces, weirdly enough, still have the roulette but never spawn an item minigame. Hidden blocks are gone. Shops now have a limited inventory of 2 per item. Boo will consistently steal 15 coins. You are allowed to duel for stars, and at the end of every turn, players get to vote on one of 3 given minigames. On paper, I don't actually mind a lot of these rules individually. The immediate problem is that all of these rules are forced together with no options to toggle any of them. This is just kind of a classic Nintendo thing. The reason why Smash Bros. Games have such die-hard competitive communities is because players had the ability to make their own rule sets. Would people still be playing Melee 25 years later if you were forced to play with the red shell on? Probably not, but honestly, those guys are devoted. Maybe they would have managed. The point is, if you want to give your party game a competitive rule set, the best way to go about it is to give the community the tools and options and let them figure it out themselves. Mario Party rarely ever has any robust options. Best we get is usually these weird minigame packs, the ability to turn off bonus stars, and being allowed to add handicap stars. But even still, it genuinely baffles me that Nintendo would go through all the effort to add all of these different rules modifiers and not let players individually turn them on and off. And this is where the central problem with Pro Rules lies, because the way all of these rules interact with each other just makes for a very boring mode. Like, let's start at the beginning. Before you even start a game of Pro Rules, which item will you pick? There's definitely a couple stinker items in here and a few standouts, but I genuinely believe if you pick any item other than the cellular shopper, you are throwing. And the reason is because the shop has a limited inventory of items. For every high value item, custom dice, golden pipe, star steel traps, only 2 will be sold. So if you're able to access the shop whenever you want, you're basically guaranteeing that you will not only get the best items, but you're also denying the best items from your opponents. Cellular shopper is also incredible if you happen to win the buddy, because then you get to deny 2 items in 1 turn. Comparatively, every other item here will not have even close to as big of an impact on the entire game. I think the second best choice here is probably the mushroom, so you can actually move on turn 1, but even that's a gamble because of a different mechanic. You see, you choose an item before the game starts, but you don't know what bonus star you're fighting for until after you choose your item, and the 3 potential bonus stars are Sightseer for moving the most spaces, Slowpoke for moving the least spaces, and Green Star for landing on green spaces. If you pick the mushroom before the game starts, there's a decent chance you're shooting yourself in the foot towards trying to compete for the Slowpoke star. Even if it is Sightseer star, what's stopping you from using your cellular shopper to buy movement items from the shop? Cellular shopper just works with all of these. But let's talk a little more about the bonus stars, because why are all of these options based on your dice roll? You know, the most random part of the game, yeah, there are strategies to better your odds at getting Slowpoke and Sightseer. Sightseer you want to obtain and use as many movement items as possible, and Slowpoke you want to rely on movement that does not increase your dice rolls like shop hops and pipes. But at the end of the day, if every player knows this, it will inevitably just come down to who got better rolls. Here's a great example. I entered a tournament for this game a few months ago. It was pretty chill, and yeah, I won it, no big deal. But I mainly won it because I exploited this rule set. Me and this other player were rolling really low and not using speed items the entire game, competing for the Slowpoke star. We both did everything right, but at the end of the game, I won the bonus star by rolling one space less than him. This means that he essentially wasted the entire game moving slow for no reason just because he rolled one space too many. Granted, this game was not decided by the bonus star, I kinda kicked ass here, but it's not uncommon for the bonus star to be the deciding factor. What if you get a bunch of movement items going for Sightseer but just get horrible rolls? What about even just getting movement items in the first place? If the first two players buy all the movement from the shop before you can even get there, you are at an early disadvantage. Dice rolls feel like they matter a lot more in Pro Rules, which is a pattern we will continue to see. Let's talk about the space changes. I think getting it out of the way, getting rid of Chance Time, probably a good call. I personally love Chance Time as a Hail Mary play that could just as easily backfire, but that's more in the old games. In Jamboree's Chance Time, you can pretty consistently time the block hits to ensure the outcome you want. I'm sure most high-level Jamboree lobbies just save custom dice for the final turn to guarantee star swaps, but yeah, swapping stars is too volatile for competitive mode. I almost feel like just removing star swaps, coin swaps, and 2-star steal, then making the space completely random could have been a cool way to balance it as a high-risk, high-reward Hail Mary. But I also understand just removing it altogether. This is not even close to the worst space change in this mode. Lucky spaces, in my opinion, are an issue in the base game. There's way too many of them, and they inject a ludicrous amount of money into the economy constantly. You might think that taking away the roulette wheel from this space would make me like them more, but they are actually so much worse in this mode. The one interesting dynamic that Lucky Space bring to this game is risk management. Lucky spaces could give you an instant reward, but they can often come at a long-term cost. If you had the decision between a lucky space and a red space in party mode, most people would pick the lucky space, but there's actually a decent reason to go for the red. Most obviously, there is a possibility at the end of the game for a bonus star to be the red star, but also there could be a hidden block on a red space, but never one on a lucky space. While the lucky space is always good, you don't know what kind of good you're gonna get, and if you'll even need that kind of good. What if you get 7 coins when you're already at 100 plus? What if you get a useless item? Is it worth sacrificing a potential bonus star for an instant reward that might not even help you? Lucky spaces are actually pretty bad for bonus stars in the party mode for that reason. Sure, you could get exactly what you need, but you never know. Red spaces, green spaces, even Bowser spaces all directly contribute to bonus stars. Landing on an item space will guarantee you an item that you can use for item star. Even blue spaces have potential to have hidden blocks, which might seem like a reach, but if you're keeping track of where people land, it could be much more statistically likely. In Pro Rules, the lucky space is just undeniably broken because there's still a lot of them, and there's no more risk about getting something you don't need. When you land on a lucky space, you will always get exactly what you want. Movement for Sightseer, money for when you're low, or if you want Slowpoke. While the space technically has less RNG now without the roulette, I'd argue that makes it more luck-based. They removed any instance of risk from this space, and now it literally just rewards you for rolling onto it with your random dice roll. The RNG isn't gone, they just shift it onto making the dice roll so much more impactful. Bad spaces have no nuance in this mode. I already talked about red spaces no longer having any benefits, but let's talk about Bowser spaces. In party mode, these are actually pretty versatile spaces. Landing on them usually results in a punishment, but there's also a chance for some board events that could benefit the person who landed on it. Again, risk management. I think Hail Mary plays to try to get Bowser to fuck shit up are kinda cool, and the risk of going for that is so much higher on a Bowser space. Let's look at this clip. I see a Bowser space within 10 spaces of me, so I decide to use a double dice to lessen my odds of landing on it and hopefully reach the shop with my buddy. Unfortunately, I hit the 1 in 20 chance of landing on a Bowser space anyways. In this mode, I get punished severely for rolling a 5% chance. I lose half my coins twice, and if if I had any stars, it would have been so much worse. In party rules, rolling a 5% here is not nearly as big of a deal. There's a ton of less harmful options on the wheel, so in the competitive mode, for the sake of reducing RNG, Bowser will always take half of your coins or a star, while the RNG of landing on Bowser is completely unchanged. Does that not just shift the RNG from the wheel to the dice roll? Why does the competitive mode punish you harder for dice rolls? I don't understand. You can even tell that the developers kind of understand this concept. They know that a lot of these spaces were balanced around the idea of variable rewards and punishments, and I know that because the item space is still a roulette wheel. It would be so insanely broken to be able to choose whatever item you want at an item space. It would instantly become probably the best space in the game. It's why item minigames aren't in pro rules, because even though they are technically more skill-based than a roulette, having the agency to choose whatever item you want is game-changing. So they understand that randomness creates balance to the point where they're willing to forego the consistency of the rule set, removing RNG and roulette wheels for this one space. In this game mode that tries to remove all the random elements, the fact that they didn't remove this one proves that they're kind of aware of how the randomness is built into the balance. I'm not a fan of the hard 12-turn limit. I understand if they wanted to make a competitive format, they should want to make it consistent, but 12 turns is pretty bad. I think most people would agree either 15 or 20 turns is probably the perfect sweet spot between short enough that it doesn't really overstay its welcome and long enough for interesting things to happen. Jamboree only really exacerbates the short game problem with the buddy system. In a pro rules game, you'll usually get one buddy to spawn on turn 3 or 4 and a second buddy to spawn in the last 3 or 4 turns. This final buddy spawn almost always dictates the entire game. If you win or steal the buddy at the end of a pro rules game, you have so much insane comeback potential. Getting 2 stars or stealing 2 stars with Boo when no one has any time to respond or react is more often than not game breaking. Here's a game where I'm dead last on turn 12, and in this turn I get 2 stars and land on a green space to cement my bonus star. I finish this game in first. 2 stars in 1 turn in a 12-turn game is just a lot. Now granted, this is a problem with Jamboree in general. The buddies are just an absurd comeback mechanic that often dictate the course of entire games in the final few turns, but the fact that pro rules is locked to 12 turns means that you don't have a lot of time to build a substantial lead that negates the buddy surge, and you often don't have much time after the buddy to properly respond. I love when my competitive skill-based mode comes down to who is the best at Waluigi's 3-minute pinball extravaganza. Getting and abusing the first buddy often just paints a target on your back for every player to steal from you with Boo for the rest of the game. Boo in this game is an inevitability. All paths lead to Boo on pretty much every board, and every player will likely have at least 50 coins by turn 5 because of all the lucky spaces. This means that you don't want an early lead in this mode. Oftentimes it's better to go the opposite direction of the star early game, because whoever has the lead is inevitably gonna have their stars stolen. The better strategy, just hoard good items and try to farm the bonus star until the final 3 turns. If you have a gold pipe, just don't use it until everyone's past Boo and you know for sure whether you have the buddy or not. Yes, bagging is very good in this mode. The bonus star is very strong because it's a star that you can grind for early game that cannot be stolen. It feels like the first 9 turns are prep time for the inevitable end game surge. You never want to be an early target. In this game, people knew I had an advantage because I have a gold pipe. They weren't actually able to do anything about it though, because I didn't have the liquid assets worth stealing. Again, I think this is a similar issue in base Jamboree, but at least in party mode, gold pipes aren't monopolized by who gets there first, and there can be a higher turn count that can help negate some of the buddy's impact. The final thing, this one isn't a huge deal, is the minigame voting. I think this is more of an opinion thing for me than this is bad design thing. My problem with minigame voting in Jamboree is that it inevitably shoehorns you into a much smaller set of minigames. This game already does not have that many minigames. The lack of minigame variety is one of the biggest issues for me with this game in general. So by reducing the variety even more based on people's preferences, you play a lot of repeats when you play pro rules a lot. Yeah, maybe it's weird that I think playing less of the bad minigames is a negative for me, and trust me, Jamboree has a few minigames that are just so slow and garbage that I would rather delete from the game than play, but I I do think general variety is important. The other issue with voting, specifically in a competitive mode like this, is that 1v3s are not very balanced. Almost every Mario Party game has a ton of 1v3s that are weighted towards one side or the other, but when minigame voting is on, you now have a 75% chance to get the minigame that is weighted towards the 3. It's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but it feels like being the one side in this mode usually sucks and contributes to the risk management thing I said earlier. There's even less incentive to land on a red space because it makes you very likely to be at a disadvantage in a 1v3 minigame. I think minigame voting should count the 3 as 1 vote and the 1 as 1 vote as well, so it's at least a 50-50 who gets the broken minigame, or just make 1v3s fully random. But again, I think this is a much smaller issue compared to everything I mentioned before. So based on everything I've said, what does Pro Rules accomplish? All it really does is give you a dumbed down version of Mario Party that eliminates most risk management in favor of your dice rolls. Risk management is one of my favorite skills in Mario Party. Random bonus stars can be bullshit, but I love playing Mario Party in a way where I try to cover as many options as possible, sacrificing immediate board advantages for the potential return of later bonus stars. Hell, there's even skill and strategy in tracking hidden blocks, keeping track of which spaces have been landed on to narrow the odds. Pro Rules is Mario Party but boring. See what you roll, then pick the good space. You are a slave to your dice rolls. Any impact you can make on the game is based solely on who gets to the shops at better times, who gets to control the buddy at the end of the game, and who had better dice rolls to secure the bonus star. That's the entire mode. Sure, a lot of these issues probably stem from base game Jamboree, but every change in the mode exacerbates these issues greatly. Now, if these rules were each individually toggleable options, yeah, this would be a cool addition. Imagine Pro Rules without buddies, or at least no second buddy. Imagine being able to turn off lucky spaces like they did with Chance Time, or give spaces their roulette wheels back, but be able to turn off individual wheel options that are too volatile like Bowser Revolution. Allow players to choose bonus stars. I bet if you ask most players what bonus stars should be awarded at the end of the competitive game mode, 90% of them would probably say minigame star, and very few would have picked Sightseer or Slowpoke. What if you could just duel for stars in the normal mode? They let you do minigame vote in normal mode, why is that the only one? Setting specific stocks for specific items based on their power level. Why are mushrooms and gold pipes limited to the same degree in the shop? More players should be allowed to have basic movement in the early game. Hell, why stop there? Let players balance the prices of items too. With options, players can actually work out their own rule sets, and even from a non-competitive perspective, house rules have always been a staple of board games. Why has Mario Party never been allowed to have them? The answer is Nintendo just usually hates giving people options like that for some reason. Like, holy shit, have you seen the volume option they added to Mario Kart World in a recent update? Like, only Nintendo, man. So yeah, I don't expect much of what I said to ever be added in a future Mario Party game, but this is the second channel where I can rant into the void about children's party games as much as I want. What do you think about Pro Rules? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.